and welcome to Stop Now, where we stop, listen, and learn. I'm one of your hosts, Nate. We are back for another exciting week, and I'm joined, of course, by maybe my new favorite person in the whole wide world, Savita. Savita, how are you this week, my friend?
I'm very well, Nate. How are you doing?
I am good. It has been a long week. It has been a busy week, but it's been a productive week, so I can't complain.
Awesome. And how is your weekend going on?
It's going good. It's going good. My voice might be a little raspy today. I spent 4 hours yesterday calling high school football, and so it was fun just to kind of be back out there and be at the stadium and see the kids out there playing. So it's like I said, it's been busy, but it's been very, very fun. And then things are kind of starting to get somewhat back to normal, even though we've still got a ways to go. So I'm good. So how has your week been?
Yes, that's refreshing, isn't it, Nate?
It is.
Be back to, with the children and the football and things like that. Yeah, as well.
That is good to know. That is good to know. And we are also joined, before we introduce our very special guest this week, we're of course joined by somebody who could probably play football because he's always wearing his face mask, and that is our buddy JK. JK, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, Nate. I was holding the thing like for you. I can take a back seat now, and you can go ahead and introduce. And we have our special guest, Jillian, Coburn.
Awesome. Thank you so much, JK. And yes, let's bring in Jillian. I'm excited for this conversation. I've had a chance to look up a little bit about your work and some of the books that you've written. So why don't you introduce yourself to the audience, let them know a little bit about yourself and a little bit about what you're passionate about, the mission that you're passionate about.
So my name is Jillian Coburn. I'm originally from Lafayette, Louisiana. I was displaced 4 years ago to Lago Vista, Texas, which most people don't know where it's at. It's north on Lake Travis. I was just telling the hosties that it is God's country. It's beautiful. I'm definitely a Louisiana Cajun girl. So I was very biased to move to Texas because when I think of Texas, I think of tumbleweeds, cacti, and I think of the heat. And it definitely was not like that. It's hill country. It's beautiful. It is just a breath of fresh air, and I'm very excited to be here. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a writer, I'm a speaker, I'm an activist, and my passion is helping others that have been inflicted by abuse. I am on a chair with SCSA. I am the vice president of the women's group, where on Sundays we meet, we talk, we discuss. I don't do it, but another woman, Jessica, does. And it provides a platform for those who want to speak about past abuse. And it doesn't discriminate. You could be abused within a family member. It could be a neighbor. It could be a priest. It could be anything, any organization. So it's not a secular based thing. It's more open for that. It's community based. And so we listen, we provide help, we share. It's just a great feeling. I did do a lot of work with SNAP, and I felt that there wasn't enough for those who had been abused, possibly by a family member, didn't have that support because a lot of the SNAP members were abused by a priest or by a deacon or a clergy member. So I'm constantly working. My cousin is a national tort attorney in Houston, Texas. And so I work with him, working with the Boy Scouts of America clients, human trafficking cases. And another passion of mine is I worked on the bill HB 492 in Louisiana, where we rocked it. And it's amazing. I honestly think that it was literally a grace from God that the senators and the legislators decided to not even allow a statute of limitation. And there's no statute of limitation, and there's a 3-year look back window. I enjoy cooking. I enjoy my children, which we were just talking and discussing it, football Fridays and Saturdays, we got football again. So I'm constantly on the football field. I do a lot of community work within my community. So there's a lot of things that I do. As I tell someone, if you think of the W Hotel and they say, we can give you anything and everything at the drop of a hat, that's Jillian Coburn. She will find the answer for you no matter what. And I will not say no until I get the answer yes. I'm working right now. We are trying to open up the state of Texas with their statute limitations. So I'm working with a couple representatives trying to get the ball rolling for session. So lobbying bills to allow, while the ball is rolling, and Arkansas just opened up, Louisiana just opened up. So I just think we're trying to provide a platform for those who haven't had the chance to seek the justice or even to be heard, to allow them to be heard. So that's me and a little snippet if you want to get.
Well, first of all, I'm glad that there's no friction here. You being from Louisiana and me being
saw that Falcons back there.
Falcons fan.
Lord.
Born in Atlanta, so
I know. That's all good though. I still seek love.
Yes, it's all love. But I guess in terms of the mission, in terms of helping people that have survived, this abuse, Jillian, like, how did that become something that you were passionate about? How did that become, a mission for you to get involved in?
I was abused from the age of 16 onwards to about 30. And my first abuse was with my boyfriend. And I come from a really great family. I come from a family of politicians. I had a great life. So when I speak with doctors, they're like, were you abused as a kid? Like, what made you do this? I really thrived on being a bad kid, if that makes sense. I was a straight A student, but I liked bad boys. I dated guys that were drug dealers. And I didn't have any self-worth. And so I just continued to repeat the pattern of those bad behaviors and those characteristics and traits that abuse is just a cycle, right? And I got married at 18, had my daughter, and I was in another abusive relationship. And my mother was like, look, I will raise your daughter for you. Like, and I'm like, you're not raising my kid. Like, I had my kid, this is my choice. And so I tried to stay in the relationship with my first husband, but he was addicted to drugs and alcohol. And when my father did die, it was a very dark time in my life from the age about 26 to 27. But then I decided to leave, and I got arrested for selling drugs. I was set up by the police, and I was facing 5 years in the federal penitentiary.
Wow.
And I guess a breaking point in my life was seeing my 12-year-old daughter, who's gifted, brilliant, fantastic, staring at me on the other side of a rehab facility where I was based. And I knew I had to, excuse my language, to get my shit together. And from that point forward, I had a community of people helping me and gearing me in the right direction. And I do have a degree in education. I got my degree after 3 years, and I'm brilliant. I'm super smart, but I had the characteristics of just risk-taking constantly. And I did not want to teach. I've worked in the oil field, and then I began working with a nationwide author, and I saw how easy it was to create stories. And I began writing my memoir back in 2010 after I would fast forward, right? Abuse after abuse after abuse after abuse. And the last straw was before my husband now, my fiance, we were together, and he was a drug addict. And so I had a lot of codependency issues. And I was brutally beaten. My face was fractured on this side, and my girlfriend, per se goons, were like, look, you better do something or we're going to do something. And so I went to the authorities. It was a very hard time for me. And after that, I knew that I had to speak out, and I had to speak out for others, because it's so hard when you're stuck in these toxic relationships and not having a roadmap. And so I began writing my memoir, and it took a while because I had a lot of ghostwriters. I got married to an amazing man who allowed a platform for me to be the amazing being that I am. And again, I wrote the book because I wanted the book to be like a friend, because I didn't have those good friends. I had people gearing me in the wrong directions. A good friend will tell you, hey, that's not cool, you should stop doing that. right? A bad friend would be like, keep doing it. And so my book provides my history of what I've been through, because I've seen tons of therapists. And my question to a therapist is, have you been through abuse? Because if you've never experienced abuse, please don't sit here and start preaching to me of what I should be doing. So again, I'm very fiery, and this is something I'm very passionate about. And so when I spoke on this bill, I spoke on 5 different women who didn't have the ability to speak out. And so I'm very passionate about speaking out for others, because once you do have that voice and you're not muzzled, there's so many things that you can do. It's radical. And so again, that's what I'm very passionate about. And I'm about just getting everyone where they need to get, because mental health is a problem. We don't talk about it. We don't talk about what's going behind closed doors. We don't educate our children enough, in my opinion, to know that, hey, it's not okay for this to be happening. Because I did not want my daughter to grow up thinking that it's okay for a man to treat her the way that I was allowing myself to be treated. Because our children are carefully watching us, right? So, yeah.
Well, and I want to turn it over to Savita here in a second, but you just touched on something in terms of the mental health aspect and therapy. And, I've mentioned it on our show before. I'm somebody that survived abuse when I was a little kid. And it took me until I was 30, to actually kind of come to grips with that. And one of the things that did help was therapy. And so I'm wondering, like, what your perspective is on that, because I know it's different for everybody that kind of goes through that trauma. What's your thought on therapy?
I have the best therapist. I've been doing 5 years of EMDR. It is amazing. When our polyarthric synthetic nervous system, we really are radically affected by it, right? And to actually understand doing EMDR, the nervous system, and those energetic charges that we have from those feelings, emotions, and thoughts, you can literally elevate them, and they're just like a baseline. So I highly recommend it. I think it's been life-changing for me, because I'm realizing, hey, that's who am I being right now? Am I being like 15-year-old Jillian? Am I being a 20-year-old Jillian? Okay. Where's a 39-year-old Jillian who has it together and who can recognize, okay, hey, not judging, but being aware, right? And not reacting like I used to react. So I think it's very important, especially with my Boy Scouts of America clients. Kathleen and Rob can attest that, most men don't come out to the age of 53 to discuss about their abuse. And a lot of times people just feel like, well, I don't have the means to go see a therapist. Well, that's not true, because you don't have to have insurance. You can apply for it. I help them apply for it, and I help them seek out a therapist. Because if I hear dissociative disorders, if I hear signs of bipolar, schizophrenia, any of those types of mental illness, I highly recommend them to go seek help, because literally come to Austin, Texas, and you have them all living underneath bridges. And my question to them, being that my husband is a 30-year war combat veteran, I know that a lot of these veterans are not even seeking out help because they're afraid to, right? And so you have a population of mentally ill walking all around the United States because they are not knowing how or accepting the help to get help.
And there's such a stigma, kind of around it, particularly for men. And that's something that I had to kind of work through. But Savita, I'm going to turn it over to you, because I don't want to take up all the question time, but I'll let you ask some questions.
Thank you, Nate. I'm speechless. I'm like, wow, oh my gosh, she just put one after the other after the other. My God, the kind of life that you have had so far, it's like it's an adventure by itself. I mean, truly risk-taking. You can write a book about, maybe an autobiography sometime later, I guess. It's going to be really a treat to read, it's and some of the facts that you said, like men don't come out when 53, it's like almost like half your age, or almost the 3/4. So these kinds of facts, it's really shocking. And you spoke about codependency, anxiety, and things like that, and awareness, for example. You just did so many things, and I have so many questions. Like, when you were abused, there should be a time where you had a guilt and shame, and you are saying that's your mistake and things like that. And what was that one of the guilt and shame that you took to another relationship like that, one after the other, and the
Yeah,
next?
because,
Because one, yeah, sorry.
being a single mom, and not having my father pay for everything, because like anytime that I had problems, dad was there to fix it. Dad was there calling politicians, getting me out of trouble, when I really should have sought those responsibilities that I had done something wrong, correct? And so I had a lot of people courting me, I'll say it in a nice way, who would pay my bills. And that's not okay. It's not, because I'm not doing justice for myself and being the being that I am being. So there was a lot of shame and guilt. It was interesting because the way that I met my husband was from someone who courted me for a very long time. And whenever I had split up with the fiance that had fractured my face, I had gone back to him and I was like, hey, I'm here. And he's like, Jillian, I left my wife for you. Like, what the hell? Like, you need to leave. I have a new girlfriend. She's coming over. I'm like, I'm not leaving until you give me money, and there was a lot of shame, a lot, and I met my husband and he was nothing like the people I had been with. Had a lot of respect, and he's like, what the hell are you doing? You have 2 children, you're so smart, you're beautiful, like, can I get your number and take you on like a real date? And I'm like, who is this yo-yo, And I gave him actually my girlfriend's number, and he, this is somebody who went to war 7 times. Like, he's not a dummy. And he found me, and he's amazing. He comes from a different background than I do. And there was a lot of shame and guilt because like I have done a lot of wrong things, and he just accepted me for who I was. And he really just allowed me to flourish, to be the cool person that I am, who I am. I'm a human being. I'm not perfect. I'm wounded, and he helped me and allowed me to heal. And I think that's truly important. And I found God at that. I feel a lot of people you find whomever, and I'm not biasing anyone on religious base, but I feel that when we have a void in ourselves, it's God that we really should go to, and bringing ourselves to the altar and allowing him to heal us, because he truly can heal us. And he has healed me tremendously. I am a testimony of faith at the end of the day. And I had to bring that shame, that embarrassment, that guilt to God and show him, hey, I am imperfect. Heal me, but I did do that. And then I got abused by a damn priest. So I don't know if I suggest that for all people, but at the end of the day, it's a spiritual thing. And I will never allow anyone to take that spirit base that I have and that relationship with, on the spiritual level, whomever you believe in. If you allow yourself and you just bring down your barriers, that can be done in your home, that can be done in a church, it can be done anywhere. And it doesn't need to be put from a superior person, because at the end of the day, God is God. No one can replace him. And if you know someone that's perfect and who has never sinned, please show them to me. I would love to meet them.
I want to hit something real quick on that, because, I'm a person of faith, and we've talked about this on the show before, JK, but I'm wondering, because a lot of times, sometimes the abuse occurs from people that the victim or the survivor trust, that are in those religious institutions. So how do you kind of reconcile that in that, I'm a person of faith, but also the people that I put my trust in and I put my faith in were ultimately the ones that hurt me?
Excuse me. Yeah. That's a question I get all the time. I am still Catholic. Both my boys go to Catholic school. And I had to come to forgive all of those people, because if I had this fiery heart, I'm A, not going to hell, and B, I'm not going to be at peace. And again, I really believe that I've been ordained to purify my church, and I'm not stopping. I want these bishops to be aware of what they've covered up. Pope just came up with something yesterday, and he told everyone that it's time for the victims to come out and be healed. I am a survivor from abuse. My abuser died 2 weeks ago. And that was a very hard time. I wanted to go to the funeral home and do some terrible things, but I didn't, and speaking to others that have been abused by priests at a younger age, and really understanding that it does take courage to come out, but it also you have to be very courageous and come to a place in your life to forgive. And forgiveness has been an ultimate healing port for myself, because without forgiving and praying for the person who hurt me, I'm not allowing salvation for them. I don't want anyone to burn in hell. I don't want anyone to sit in just the middle of nowhere and not be in the grace of just sanctification, right? So it's been a long journey. Now, would I be saying this 4 years ago? Probably not. So again, really evaluating me and looking at everything as a whole and realizing, Jillian, what are you going to do right now? How can you change this? What steps can you take to approach this so that people are more aware and people can come out? Because I think that numbers speak louder than anything. And so when you have a group of people who have been isolated and have not been allowed to speak, and you have others that are speaking on behalf of them, they're going to come out, and then things will start to change. And I'm really hoping that, because I don't believe that this EIM, ethics, integrity, and merits, is enough to keep predators away. Abuse does not discriminate. It chooses any vulnerable person. And so again, teaching and educating others and having things to be aware of needs to be brought in the forefront of educating everybody in churches, in schools, in communities, and in homes.
Jillian, quick question on that. Maybe I don't want to upset you, but the trauma that everybody has has gone through, like you, right? So you yourself mentioned that you are smart enough and you have been lucky to find someone to come to the path of recovery, and you are doing this great work. But then I'm trying to play the devil's advocate here, and since Nate knows that I'm an atheist, so people who don't want to recover, right? For example, if you make an assumption, you have not taken that effort on your own to this recovery path, what do you have to say to it? Why do you give the credit to God or spirituality? Because it is you who decided that. You know that, and you are in no way more vulnerable or possibilities of getting traumatized again. So everything is in your control, I assume, right?
Absolutely.
Or is it you are giving it a free hand to God and others?
Oh, I don't think that that's true. I was sharing with Savitha earlier that, I had a woman who was trafficked, and she's based in Florida. And I'm not going to chase anybody. You got to do the work. It takes you. And it takes you accepting, hey, I got to take these steps in order to get better. But you ask the question, why are you giving it to others? Okay, let me ask you a question. Why are you here? How were you created? Can you answer that? Did you just magically pop up? Did a computer create you to be particles, atoms? Who created you? I'm just curious.
I won't go that far. It's scientific evidence is there, right? So we can debate all along on.
But that's an interesting point of view you have. Just like I have an interesting point of view, you have an interesting point of view, right?
I don't know whether it's an interesting point of view or not, Jillian, but the point is, right, it's an evolution. Again, religious people will differ, and you can have your own view saying that it's my belief, but it's not that. I'm saying we have factual evidence, and everything can be, not everything can be proved or otherwise, But I'm not going to say that like I have a meaning or purpose to have this life. I exist by chance, right? So I don't want to make a big deal out of it. But then the suffering that we go through, right? If you are putting an entity above you and saying that like they created you and they created you to suffer, then suffer. Why
No,
the
it's a
hell are you
choice.
complaining about
Choice
it?
to suffer. Everything's a choice. It's a choice to wake up to be happy. It's a choice to wake up to be sad. Something that I do every morning is, who am I? What is my purpose? What am I going to create today? So again, it's a choice. Everything's a choice. It's a choice to be stuck in a bad relationship. It's a choice to be battered. You can walk out that door and get help because there are so many resources there. It's a choice to be alone. It's a choice to be sad. So again, what are you choosing? It's a choice for me to pick up a drug. It's a choice for me to pick up an alcoholic beverage. It's a choice for me to be and choose whatever it is that I want. That's my choice. What are you choosing? And if you're going to choose something, do you evaluate what you're choosing? Are you going to choose what's going to affect you and affect others? Because again, let's dive deeper. Abuse does not just affect me. It's going to affect my kids. Mm-hmm. It's going to affect my family. It's a triadic effect. It's going to affect everybody. So what are you choosing?
It's a good point, right? So the choices you made in the past, you regret that. Right. So
no, I don't regret it. You know why I don't regret it? Because I wouldn't be able to sit down with the drug addict. I wouldn't be able to sit down with the prostitute. I wouldn't be able to sit down and have no judgments about that person because I've been there. Mm-hmm. I don't regret anything. All of my experience has helped me be the best version of myself right now that you see. All of my choices. I don't regret a damn thing. I don't regret stepping in and putting all of my apples in this priest thinking that he is going to heal me. Because you know what? Now I'm going to expose my church. I'm going to be able to see I'm going to take my flashlight with God on my side, and I'm going to shine the light where those spiders are at so I can purify what I believe in. Now, I'm not saying just because I'm a belief person and I'm a person of Christ, a Christian, does not mean that the next person who just believes in the universe or believes in some scientific level, that's great. That's their interesting point of view. I'm not going to judge it, just like no one should judge me, right? I think that everyone should have an opinion. They choose it. That's their choice. Let them choose it. Whatever works for them, that's what they should choose. I know what works for me. And I have no regrets of what I have done because now I know that I can educate those that have been in the situations that I have been in, the vulnerable situations. Being a woman who did not have shit, I had to make my way to be who I am today. I want to show others that it takes you showing up for your damn self. You got to show up. You got to wake up. You got to choose happiness. And if you're not choosing that, you know what's going to happen? You're going to be one sad, lonely ass person. And I don't want to be that person. I want to show up. I want to shine. And I want to show others that, you know what? That's a great idea. You should do it. Mm-hmm. I've chose a lot of things. I've created so many things. And you know what? They have freaking not worked out, but I did it. They were a creation. We are all infinite beings here. We are everywhere. I'm in France right now. I am in another dimension, wherever that may be. I maybe have already created this and I'm just basically redoing it, if you believe in that, right? So again, it's all a matter of choice. Everyone has an interesting point of view. Don't judge it. It is what it is. Just be an allowance and awareness of it. That's all I can say about that.
So how do you get to that point, though? I think is a good question, Jillian, for somebody out there that might be watching. If you are stuck in the midst of that abuse and stuck in the midst of that trauma, how do you choose to not be there? Like, how do you get out? How do you extricate yourself from that situation? What do you say to, people that are going through that right now?
I provide a lot of resources, a lot. I provide a lot of data. I show them, okay, if you choose this, the worst in a domestic violence relationship, the worst part is leaving, right? So if you have someone who has threatened you with a gun, who has like battered you to where you just feel that you're never going to be anywhere. You have to show that you got to step out of that environment. And there's so many different homes, shelters, programs in the United States in different cities to get you out. And again, what do you say to that woman who, I mean, I can definitely see a woman who is being abused. And I know people who still stay in abusive relationships. Again, it's their choice. You can't force somebody to be like, okay, you got to do this, you got to do that. It takes them to hit that rock bottom to really know, okay, it's time to go. I can't do this anymore. Because again, if you have children, your children are seeing this. And I'm going to tell you what, I don't come from a family where my dad beat my mom or my mom beat my dad. I come from a very loving, caring family. So again, I've seen it. I've been in it. I've been in literally the thick of abuse, and it's not pretty. I've lied to my mom when she's asked, why do you have a black eye? Oh, what, you know, the bed fell on me or whatever, you know, these lies and these secrets, but it's like they were eating at me like a disease. And so disease, the definition of disease is you're not at ease with your own self. So what was I lacking and what did I want, right? Because wanting is a lack of. And so again, it just takes like someone to basically shake you, because that last relationship I was in, I just wanted to continue to stay in it. And I'm lucky enough to have a lifelong friend who's like, what are you doing? This is sickening. Like, this is not you. You're not showing up for yourself. And so I tell those people when they're processing everything, for instance, the last girl that I just worked with that I'm not going to chase after, what are you choosing? Why are you so worried about everyone else? Let's worry about you. Let's get you out. Like, you want to create this, you want to create that. What steps are you going to take to get there? You know? And if they're not willing to accept it, then look, like I said, I got football Friday and football Saturday. I ain't chasing you on Friday and Saturday. I might be chasing you on Monday and Tuesday, but when I've given you and I've exhausted every single thing that I can to give you, I step away. I can't help everyone. I can show you, but it's a matter of choice. Are you going to choose it?
So I just have a question now that we speak about victims and survivors and all that. So how can we start like smaller when they're little? How do we teach children or their young mommies? Do we teach them about the good touch and the bad touch and things like that? But how do we create awareness to the little children and their parents? Because something happens, they have to come and tell their family, their parents. So that confidence, how do a person give that confidence to a small child? You know, it starts from there. So opening up, you have the courage to speak out. I mean, you're so courageous to tell that. So many people, like 53, oh my God, people are ashamed of even tell it out. I think they don't want to hear that themselves, their own voice. So,
I had this conversation with Dr. Gregory Williams, and he's based out of Texas at Baylor University. And so he works in the trauma unit. And so we had this discussion, and something that he shared was that, you know, there's not enough. Instead of teaching, I mean, I think it's great that we're teaching about sexual education and, you know, all this great stuff, right? But I really think that there needs to be a program in the schools to show that kids can find a safe place to go and say, hey, you know, dad's yelling too loud at me. Dad's, you know, screaming, putting me down, just literally abusing me, or dad's touching me in the wrong way, or maybe mom's touching me, or maybe my brother. I mean, I've seen it happen in the home, and that's the hardest part. Like, I spoke upon a victim in Congress for a girl who finally came out about her abuse when the brother died. It was her stepbrother. And so my question to her was like, well, why didn't you tell your mom? And the reason why she didn't tell her mom was because she didn't want to break up that relationship with the stepfather, right? So I think, you know, I share with my kids, and I think it needs to be an awareness thing, right? And again, someone needs to create a program going in, letting a child know, hey, this is a safe spot. Look, my dad was violent with me. My sister would tell me to this day, like, I didn't understand it. He would literally yell, scream, shake you, abuse you. And then you guys were fine, right? And she's like, and I thought to myself the other day when I was speaking with Dr. Gregory Williams, like, just, you know, hashing out about it, I wish I would have I don't know what happened. That was weird.
Yes, you were right in the middle of your point, and then all of a sudden you just froze.
Yeah, they were making fun of me, Jillian. Like I made you mad and angry, and
Oh, you didn't? No, you didn't make me mad. It takes a lot to make me mad.
thank you
You
for
definitely did not make me mad. I promise. Believe me, everyone has a right to believe whatever they want, and it's okay to ask questions. A smart person asks questions. If you're not asking questions, then I question you.
So we wanted to know about my ugly truth, not mine. Your book, Life After Abuse. So what made you to do that, and give us some glimpse about that?
So, like I was sharing earlier, I wrote the book so that I could provide a roadmap for women and men who are inflicted by abuse. Again, I didn't have those courageous friends who were pointing me in the right direction or sharing, hey, Jillian, you should do that. I wanted my book to be accessible so people could use some tools that have worked for me. And I wanted it to come from a person who actually experienced abuse, because my question that I ask people, if you've never experienced abuse, why the heck are you giving me advice? So
Jillian,
the book basically...
sorry to interrupt. So I just have some dumb question on that. So why do you keep saying that, right? Because cops, right, who prevent crime, it doesn't mean that like they have to do crime and to have that judging, right? The judges, they don't know that, my life. And even if I go to a doctor, the doctor doesn't know my body, and he is the one who is diagnosing it and giving medicine, right? So they should not be experienced with that disease to cure the disease. So something like that, like even the educators, like I can give various examples, right? Scientists, they don't know anything, but still they try to solve those problems. So when you say that like only a person who has been victim or traumatized have to speak and fight for these cause, because I have not been a human trafficking victim and I have not been abused. These are strange things, right? But still I support and I want to be the voice of the voiceless. So is that like something wrong? Or I don't get it, like when you say like therapists, they don't have to judge you or give you
So I'm going to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
So I work with TASA, which is Texas Against Sexual Assault. And we have a task force where we educate those police officers, those judges, those doctors, because victims who have come forward and are like, hey, this has happened to me, and who are humanly trafficked, the cops will say, well, you deserve that. I can give you a laundry list of examples that police officers, that doctors, that judges have ruled on in bias because they were not educated on this in particular population. So when I state that a person who sits here, a doctor, a psychiatrist, who's like, you should try this because I've done millions of studies. Well, you know what? That person is not me. They are not in my brain. Yes, they have studied the brain. Hence why I'm going to go get my master's in January in trauma so I can learn more about the psyche, right? But a person, and you can agree, is it JK? Is that right? Or I'm saying Nate. JK.
Nate.
So Nate has experienced abuse as a child. He understands. He knows what it felt like, probably what it felt like to be alone and not have anyone to go to. I know what it feels like to not have anyone to go to, that I'm being abused. I'm being financially abused. I'm being sexually abused. I'm being literally like brought on to this politician, to that politician, to abuse my own body. JK, have you been through that? And you say that you're a supporter for that. How are you supporting that? Are you just donating money to organizations that you think that are going to help? How are you actually, I'm curious, I want to ask you a question. What does your roadmap look like for a survivor? What are you doing for these human trafficking clients? What are you doing for the population for abuse? What are you doing? You have a mask on. So unravel that mask and show us who you really are. So what are you doing? Please tell me. I'm curious. And that's why I say that, because I have been through therapists after therapists that are like, Jillian, you should do that. Jillian, you should do that. I've done everything. It did not work. None of it worked. Zero, zip. Until I finally found someone who actually was abused. And she was my therapist. And she shared stories of me, of her going to the bathroom, trying to run out of a house because she was being brutally battered. And it didn't work. So she gave me tools and tips that worked for her, and I trust her. So maybe that's where I'm coming at, where I believe that a victim, or I believe someone who's been through it, should be the one to show others. And look, I'm going to tell you right now, the bills that are being passed in the United States, guess what's happening? They're going to advocates. You know why they're going to advocates? Because you know what? Most of the time, these representatives have never been abused. So how can you present a bill if you have one survivor and you don't have freakingly an audience? Look at Louisiana. We are a state, a complete state of Catholics. The governor is Catholic. The attorney general is Catholic. Everyone is Catholic. We did not think this bill was going to move. You know why the bill moved? Because you had your advocates, you had your stories, you had your testimonies that were coming forward. So JK, what are you doing for this population? I want to know. I'm curious. What are your works? What does that look like?
Yeah, to answer to you, Jillian, and that is one of the mission, right? For Stop Now, the mission is to provide the victims the courage and the support that the face mask is like, to represent them, like being anonymous. You can raise your voice, you can tell your stories. Like we had so many survivors and guests who shared those stories, like on labor trafficking and human trafficking. They are so scared, like as you said, right? So 1 in 100 people might get that courage to stand up and come on camera, like what you do. Not everybody does it, right? The last week we had a guest, he traveled thousands of miles in a hope for a better life and a job, came here on a visa, and he has been victimized. And he tells that like there are thousands of people like
What is your work though? What are you doing? What are you doing? What does that look like? What have you done to change and implement law change? What have you done to change anything in the policies? Because I'm going to tell you something. People that are anonymous, for instance, my victims before me that were victimized by the priest, they were anonymous. And you know what happened? The bishop didn't report it because they were anonymous. And you know what happened? I got eaten by the freaking wolf that was still in midst of the shepherd's flock, because that's what I'm talking about. So a survivor, a person who's been abused, who has taken the steps, who's actually making change literally in the system, because that's where it starts. It starts in the system. If we're not working in the system and we're not educating people, judges, police officers, nurses, everybody, the community, it's never going to change. It is going to still be a stigma. That's why the men's group, the men, especially the men, and I feel so bad for men who have been abused because people judge them. They're like, oh, well, that's sad. I don't know how to help them. You can get them help. Richard Whitman with SCSA has a program every Saturday where he allows everyone to meet to talk. Sometimes people just need to process the shit that they've been through. And that's a beautiful thing. So I tell everybody, even my Boy Scouts of America clients that have just spoke out, I'm the first person. They've never told their damn wives. They've been married for 30 years. I'm telling them, all right, this is your day to start to begin to heal. Because you know what? They matter. You matter, JK. You matter, Savita. And so do you, Nate. And I matter too. So again, JK, I want to meet with you. I want this to go further because I don't believe that you just allowing people to talk anonymously is going to really, truly help. What are you touching upon? How are you striving to be that force in order to basically awaken people? Because our consciousness have been taught, hey, it's all right. Let's let the predator just live amongst us. Let's just label them on a driver's license and be like, yep, I'm a predator. Let's send out those things. You know what? They don't even have to freaking register. If they want to be assholes, they don't have to do it. And you know what? You may have a predator living next door to you. And you as a parent who has children are not educating your own kids. Shame on you. Shame on you for showing that you know what? If I see my husband, because he's not perfect, all of us are not perfect, and he has his moments. And if he gets too loud, I'm going to step in, because I'm not going to allow my child to be literally verbally abused. I'm not going to allow my child to be physically abused. And it takes a courageous person who's been through hell and back to stand up. And you know what? There's not a lot of people like me, and I get it, JK, there's not. And maybe it's just something ignited in me that I'm a force of nature. I don't get it, okay? And I'm sure all of us are. But again, what are you doing? You can say that you're doing something, but I want to see what that looks like. I want to see how you're making change. Because I'm going to tell you what, my mission is to open up every state in the United States. And I'm telling you what, if I put it out, the law of attraction, it works. It works. Showing up works. Showing that you have done and made difference in a freaking Catholic state that's Napoleonic code. I think that that's pretty freaking radical to me. I think it's pretty cool that Arkansas did it. Again, let's start making movement. We can have tons of voices speaking out, because you know what? Trafficking is not just sex trafficking. Mm-hmm. Trafficking is labor trafficking. Having people in restaurants, and I've seen it. I've reported it. I'm such like the freaking Inspector Gadget. Okay, I'm just putting it out there, because
Jillian,
we need to be awoke.
Let's start now, right? It's a war, right? I know that. What you're saying, like, it is when we go political, and it is $1 billion business in every other industry, including the human trafficking thing. So that's why, like I said, like, we cannot fight it out all war on all fronts, right? So you pick your battle kind of things. And as you said, you as an individual, you can do only that much, right? You can impact on domestic abuse, or from your experience, what you can do to your limited circle alone, you can have that impact. The same way, right? For me, it is, as I said, I have no impact and no experience in that, but still I care for them. When I hear the stories from people, it's heartbreaking. And I feel that, like, I need to do something. But what do I do, right? As you said, reporting to, right? One of the stories, like, or many people who not even coming forward to report that. You report it to the police or to the Department of Justice or Department of Labor that you are not being paid for months and kept as an hostage here. They don't care. They say, like, you're illegal. You have to be deported. You will be arrested. So why the hell do I have the courage to come and show my face? I actually started liking you. I wanted to meet you, and you made me to pull out my mask, but I'm being paid to wear this mask. So that's something, like, I have to admit it. So that is how people suffer. When people are suffering, how do we know that, like, that's going to change? Obviously, I know this, right? We can make noises, but as you pointed it out, it has been political. Whoever the president is, they make the game, because $1 billion companies wants these programs and these kind of exploitations to make money.
Literally, that's what's happening.
Yes.
Look, Midland, they are literally popping up. You're going to start seeing these institutions where they're putting in, you know what's going to happen? The government's going to pay them. The government's going to pay them to house them, just like a prison. Just doesn't make any sense to me. Nothing. And so you know what's going to happen? In about 7-10 years, you're going to have victims coming out like, oh, I was raped, I was abused. And what is the government going to do? Because let's look at it as an institution. If you have an institution that is allowing this to go on in their institution and they're getting governmental funds, then who's at fault? The government's at fault. So again, believe me, I'm not wearing a mask, and I'm talking just like this to every single representative I speak with. Because if you're brave enough and you are strong enough to sit and be a representative or be a congressman, then what are you doing? Because that's where it starts. It starts there. Policy change. It starts there. They are the ones, like you said, JK, the president, they're the ones running the show. So us as a population and as people can start really shaking it up.
And so that's why I'm not afraid, because you know what? Maybe I'm a martyr. Maybe I'm going to die and someone's going to kill me for like being too radical and like helping others. But you know what? Wherever I end up, I know that I've done good here on earth. And that's my testimony. I'm going to stick with that.
Absolutely. I think we can do a part 2. Like, it's so much to talk about with you, and I just don't want like to take much of your time. And it's really an honor and pleasure to have you on our show. And Savita, before we wrap this up, we are running out of time. You both, like, if you have any final comments or questions, please go ahead.
One of the questions I wanted to ask is that how do you detach yourself from the survivors, the victims? You have too much of emotional burden that they pour out to you. They don't pour out. You see that, but you know they're not speaking out. You have a family, you have your children. How do you detach yourself? It is not work. This is a lot of emotions involved in it. You being a survivor yourself, how do you do this?
So I have a clearing statement that I do. I used to be involved with access consciousness. And so something that I do is, who does this belong to? Does it belong to me? Does it belong to someone else or something else? And if it doesn't belong to me, I send back to the sender with all consciousness attached, send back to the sender with all consciousness attached, good, bad, right, wrong, all 9 pop, poc, shorts, boys, and beyond. And literally after working with a client, I'll go for a walk on the lake. I'll put my feet in the water, and I just know that that doesn't belong to me. And I know that I have to be centered, just like the Army says, you leave your boots at the door. I leave my boots at the door. And that takes me going for a bike ride. That takes me going to Hot Works, or just detaching myself from what I'm not going to take on, because I can't take this on, because I will emotionally, like I was saying earlier, be drained, and my body's going to be affected by it. So those are just some tools that I do, you know, pod poc, point of creation, point of destruction, knowing that this does not belong to me. This is not serving me, and just letting it all go.
That's wonderful. Isn't it, Nate? Like she's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like my last question for you, Jillian, and we'll definitely have to do this again down the line. You're not so bad from being from Louisiana. We can have this conversation. But I think the thing that speaks to me when we're having this conversation is there's probably somebody that's watched this and can hear the passion in your voice and understand that this is your mission, but maybe they're like, how do I get involved? Right? Like I'm not a politician. I'm not, anybody that's been through this. Like, how can I help? What can I do to lend my support? What would you tell those people?
Donate to organizations that actually are out there. Child USA is a huge one. Catherine Robb and Marcy Hamilton, man, there's some go-getters. I'll tell you what, I worked with her with the committee that I was on for HB 492. She's a badass. And the organization, they rock. Donate your money to show where they're actually making movement. You know what I'm saying? Get involved with your community. Create something, write your check and make sure that check is being signed by someone and that money is being dispersed to actually make a change, because there are organizations that I would not trust that are all about themselves. And I think that you really should do some research on organizations. There's a lot of them. I didn't realize it until really getting involved this year. NASCA is one of them. SCSA is one of them. SNAP's one of them. There's so many organizations out there. TOSS is one of them. Texas Against Sexual Assault. Man, those women are freaking incredible. And it's super neat to see, detectives in there and being like, yeah, these are things that cops say when they go to a domestic violence or an assault, or when they go and they pick up a human trafficking case. And it's so cool to see that there's actually people working towards change. So again, that's what I would tell someone. Hey, look at an organization, see what they have done, see what they're moving, and put that money to help them, because a lot of these are nonprofits. I know SCSA is one of them. I go and I use my husband's money to go and speak on behalf of others. You know what I mean? So again, evaluating those organizations that are actually doing work and helping in making change through the future. Because again, I know now, when even if I just do Louisiana, which I know I'm not, I know that I'm helping the children of the future and the future of the children of Louisiana to have that ability to have justice.
Awesome. And we like I said, we're definitely going to continue this conversation in the future. For anybody out there that's watching that wants more information, you can find us at stop-now.org. And Jillian, if anybody wants more information about the work that you're doing, where can they search that out?
They can reach me on my email at hello, HELLO, at Jillian, JILLIAN, Coburn, COBURN.com. And I'm really great at getting back and giving you my personal cell phone so you can call me whenever you need.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's going to do it for this edition of Stop Now. Savita, good talking with you as always, my friend. We'll be back here next week for everybody out there. And JK, the man in the mask, thank you for joining us again this week, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, Jillian, and thank you all.
All right, JK, I'm going to come find you so I can see you.
Coming to get you.
That's hot.